Alrighty, we're gonna cook a filet mignon on the stove with herbs and a butter sauce. So after not cooking anything with butter for you for ages, I'm cooking you a whole bunch of stuff with butter. And we're gonna serve this with potato cake that you can watch on a different video, and sauteed sugar snap peas. So I'm doing this in cast iron pan. You can do this in a saute pan if you want to, and there are a lot of different ways you can do this, but you know me in the cast iron, so here we go. So just a little bit of olive oil, like maybe a tablespoon or so of olive oil, not much more than that. The pan is already hot, and I'm going to let it get pretty hot here, and then I'm going to turn it down a bit because we're going to cook for a while on the stove top. Okay, and so here's maybe I don't know what, a third of a tablespoon of butter, something like that. And so you see the pan's getting nice and hot, and it needs to be hot enough that I can sear the meat, but I also don't want to burn the butter. A little fine balance. So I think I've told you before that the oil will smoke at a higher temperature. Vegetable oil will smoke at a higher temperature than olive oil, and olive oil will help, either one will help keep your butter from burning. So I've got a piece of filet mignon here. This is a thick piece, and I actually considered cutting it in two this way, but I'm going to go for the whole thing. And you can do this recipe with a lot of different kinds of steak. This is really great with a ribeye. You get the nice fat from the ribeye, but I got a nice piece of filet here, and this is about 3/4 of a pound. That's going to be enough for the two of us for dinner, no problem at all. So you see, I'm just starting it in the pan here, and I'm gonna let it brown nicely on one side, then I'm going to flip it over, brown it on the other side, and then I'm going to really be turning the heat down and letting it cook slowly in the pan. Now, because it's so thick, this is actually going to take a while, but the alternative is I can cook it for a while on the stovetop, and I can finish it in the oven. So I may do that depending on how it's going. And you don't want your butter to burn. So okay, so look at that. That's kind of a nice brown. That is pretty thick. So I probably am going to end up doing this in the oven a bit. So you see, this part right here is really nicely browned. I probably could have left that a little bit longer on one side. Gotta get my fan going here. Just a little bit. So I'm going to turn my stove down now to kind of medium and let it brown, and then I'll show you how I want to be cooking this on the stove top. Okay, so I have this beauty of a steak browned on all sides. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some garlic here, and I'm going to add a few sprigs of thyme and a few sprigs of rosemary. And you would not believe how good the kitchen smells right now. The combination of the rosemary and the thyme and the garlic cooking in the butter. And here's what you want to do. So basically, these are the whole pieces, right? And that sauteing in the butter is going to add the kind of the essence or the aromatics of the herbs to the meat as it's cooking. And seriously, you wouldn't believe how good it smells. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm going to add a little bit more butter to this. So yeah, this is a little decadent, this dish. But the butter, we're going to use the butter on the meat and mixed in with the herbs to keep kind of cooking this guy here. Yeah, look at that. That's so good. So again, you can do this with a lot of different kinds of steak, right? You don't have to use filet mignon. This was actually, I got at the butcher shop, they had a sale, and I got a nice piece, and so I went for it. But you know, a ribeye would be great done like this. I've done that a bunch of times. Or a strip steak. You could use a strip steak, although that isn't my favorite. But here's what you do now. Here, you take some of your butter over the top there. Yeah, that's not terrible at all, is it? Okay, so that's the basic idea. So I'm just gonna continue like that. I'm gonna flip it over here in a minute. I'm gonna keep moving this stuff around. You don't want anything to burn. You don't want your butter to burn. You don't want your garlic to burn. So just keep an eye on everything. But sauteing these herbs is just so delicious. All right. Okay, the steak is just so beautiful right now. Oh, my flame went out. So look at this guy. It's still cooking away here. My garlic is nicely sauteed. It's really nicely browned. And what I just continue to do here is take the sauce, put the sauce over the top, and because this guy is so thick, I'm turning it every once in a while, but you see that it's just browning beautifully. Look at that. Oh my gosh. That is going to be so darn good. And you know, because it's so thick, I can do a little bit on the sides. So, I like steak medium rare to rare. I know that at least one of you likes it about the same and the other likes it more well done. So if you have a meat thermometer, medium rare is 130 to 135 internal temperature, okay? So basically, what you do with your thermometer is you stick it in the meat, but you got to make sure that it just goes to the middle. So you want the tip of the thermometer to go to the middle of the meat, not all the way through it. So you're really getting just right down into the middle of the piece. And you leave it there for about a minute or so, not quite, and you take the internal temperature. And once you get up to that 130, 135 range, that's a nice medium rare. If you're in the 140 range, you're more to a kind of a typical medium. And if you want it more well done than that, obviously you keep going a little bit. But don't go too far. Okay, just got a little ways to go yet. Okay, we're about done here. And you can see this guy's looking pretty good. A little salt and pepper. And off it goes, okay? And I'll show you, we'll slice it up and put it with the other parts of the dinner. Okay, with your steak, it is best to let it rest a bit out of the pan for a little while. So I've had this sitting here for a bit, and I'm going to cut a couple slices so you can take a look at it, and we'll see what we think of how cooked it is. Okay, so look at that. There's medium rare. That's about as good as it gets, right? And you don't want it cooked a whole lot more than that, or it's going to start getting really dark, more dark brown and more cooked. Now, of course, if you like it more well done, then that's okay, and you know, keep it going. But that was probably about, I'm going to say that took us about 15 minutes to get it done like that. Okay, so I'm gonna serve this now with the potato cake that's in a different video, and also with sauteed sugar snap peas that I do at the last second. But what you want to do here, when you're cooking beef, you always you cut the beef against the grain. So the grain of this meat is going this way, and you cut it against the grain. And with the fillet, that's not such a big deal. Now this is pretty rare, to be honest with you. That's if you want medium rare or more than that, would go a little bit longer than that. But I'm going to move this over onto the plate here. Okay, now I'm going to switch here so you can see the potato cake. Get that out of the way. Let's get our potato cake here. Now often, I serve this potato cake whole and we serve it family style at our house. But tonight, we'll cut a little piece for you. So I'm using a serrated knife because it cuts through it nicely. There's a nice piece of the potato cake. And then we're going to do a quick saute of some sugar snap peas. And add those to our plate, and then we'll add a bit of the sauce on the top. Okay, my snap peas are going. Let's put some of this delicious sauce on here. This is the butter sauce from cooking the meat. A little bit of that on top, and that's going to give you a lot of that delicious herb flavor. And then these guys are just really lightly sauteed in butter. I mean, that took no more than about 25 seconds, okay? Really fast. It's basically cooking them. You see they change color, the green color. And there you go. That's not a bad dinner, huh? Enjoy that.